Hello and welcome to episode 558 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan. It's, of course, time for the weekly show you cannot live without, Market Monday. Each Monday, I go over the biggest risers and fallers in average draft position, aka ADP, from the previous 7 days, discuss whether I'm buying or selling these players at their new prices. The idea, of course, is to get you up to speed very quickly on what's happening in the best ball market. Before we get into it today, golf's second major starts Thursday, the PGA Championship. We have the industry's best projections powered by Rufus Peabody. We have the industry's best ownership projections powered by Cody Maiden, our analytics team. For a full content schedule for the golf, check out the PGA tab on EstablishTheRun.com. We do have weekly and monthly subscription options available. All right, let's begin with the best ball risers from the last 7 days. Actually, check that. Alexander Madison is somehow not a riser in the last 7 days. His ADP is not moving, but I have to talk about him anyways. Alexander Madison's ADP remains in the 90s at virtually every best ball site. 90.7 on Underdog, 95.5 on DraftKings, 95.7 on Drafters. And I just don't understand. And yes, that's up a lot from a month ago. I tweeted on April 13th that Dalvin was going 69th and Madison was going 130th. Now it's Dalvin 67th, Madison 91st. But if you're drafting this early, we're talking May 15th. If you're drafting this early, the whole idea is to build super teams, get players who will have an ADP 1 or 2 rounds higher come August. With Madison, I mean, good God, you could get 3 or 4 rounds of closing ADP value. Just absolutely insane. And we've talked about all this before, but the Madison situation is not complicated. The Vikings have incredibly large cap issues. They just gave Alexander Madison $6.35 million guaranteed, which is a lot of money at the running back position. Dalvin Cook is 28 years old. He was not good last season in anything, really. Success rate, EPA per rush, PFF grade. And Dalvin's cap number is $14 million. And he has a long history of shoulder issues. So the options for Dalvin Cook at this point are likely accept a huge contract restructure or get dumped. No one's going to trade for him given the contract. Regardless, my point here is that there's asymmetric upside in Alexander Madison. There's a really good chance Dalvin is gone and Madison is a workhorse back on a very good offense. That I would take him in like the 4th round. And even if Dalvin does end up eating the pay cut and returning to the Vikings, we're not getting killed at all on a 90th overall ADP for Alexander Madison. He's still going to play a ton. Dalvin is still an injury risk. So every draft I've done so far, I have Alexander Madison, and I feel pretty good about that. Number 2, someone actually rising in ADP over the last 7 days is Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson is up 23 spots on DraftKings to the middle of the 15th round. Similar on Underdog, where he's up 20 and a half spots to the middle of the 15th round as well. This is an interesting one. Most importantly for Van, I think all the reports on Matthew Stafford's overall health and arm health have been awesome. Offense is also getting Cooper Kupp back. I mean, Matthew Stafford is literally just one season removed from throwing for 4,886 yards and 41 touchdowns. Rams went to the Super Bowl. And remember that season, Van Jefferson was decent. I mean, he went 50, 802, 6. Now his 2022 season was marred by injury, 2 knee surgeries. But now Van Jefferson is back. Target competition behind Cooper Kupp is met. It's Ben Skowronek, it's Tutu Atwell, it's Tyler Higbee. So yes, I'm in on 15th round Van Jefferson. I think there's also interesting backdoor stacks there for best ball. Matthew Stafford, Tyler Higbee, Van Jefferson, they all go very late. Last riser I want to talk about is Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon's up 19.2 spots on Underdog all the way into the 11th round. Obviously, this is a result of the Chiefs selecting 0 running backs with any of their 7 draft picks. And then on the same day, not too long after the draft, they re-signed Jerick McKinnon and they declined the 5th-year option on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. McKinnon, of course, was insanely valuable in fantasy last year, and he only had 72 carries in 17 games, only had 1 rushing touchdown. But as a pass catcher, as a receiver, he went 56, 5, 12, 9. So I get this rise on Jerick McKinnon now that he's re-signed with the Chiefs. But man, the 11th round is just so steep for me for a 31-year-old running back with multiple knee surgeries and a running back coming off an outlier receiving TD rate. That stuff is really hard to sustain. Again, he turned 71 targets into 9 receiving touchdowns last year. And we're also talking about underdog ADP, half PPR. So there's guys that go, in that range that I like more than McKinnon. Chigaquano goes in that range. Zay Jones, Rashee Rice, Jonathan Mingo, Kendra Miller, Jalen Warren. There's options there in the 11th, 12th rounds that I think are probably better than Jerick McKinnon. Let's get to this week's fallers. First one I want to talk about is Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is down 11 spots into the late 14th round. I think I know what's going on here. Everyone assumes Anthony Richardson literally can't complete a pass. Like, that's the rhetoric in a lot of circles. Not sure if you've really heard, if you've been on Twitter and you mention Anthony Richardson, you've probably heard he actually doesn't have an arm. He actually doesn't have an arm, legs only. When he drops back to pass, Anthony Richardson just crumbles to the ground. His right arm falls off. I mean, some of the rhetoric around Anthony Richardson is just ridiculous. I'd actually argue that Alec Pierce is a really good fit with Anthony Richardson. Richardson's best skill is pushing the ball down the field, and that's also where Alec Pierce wins. Now, look, I don't think Alec Pierce is some screaming bargain in the 14th round. This team is going to be very, very run heavy. There's other guys I would take around that go around Alec Pierce that I would probably take ahead of him. Nico Collins, Greg Dulcich, Michael Gallup, DJ Chark, Tyler Higbee. But I would not completely give up on Alec Pierce. The Anthony Richardson as a thrower hate, I think, has gone too far. Speaking of unproven quarterbacks, the second faller and final faller, actually, that I want to mention is Trey Lance. Trey Lance is down 7 spots to the middle of round 16 on DraftKings. On Underdog, Trey Lance is also down 9 spots into round 16. I actually haven't taken Trey Lance at all in any drafts yet. I think it's just a pretty big parlay to hit on Trey Lance. You need Brock Purdy to not be healthy for week 1. You need Trey Lance to outplay Sam Darnold and win the job. I'll talk about that more in a second. And then finally, you also need Trey Lance to play well enough to hold the job all year, despite having competition behind him. So first on Brock Purdy's elbow, I mean, we'll see. I've seen reports that Brock Purdy could start throwing in June/July, and I would not discount that. Brock Purdy undoubtedly played well enough to be the week 1 starter if he's healthy. And then on Sam Darnold, this Kyle Shanahan system makes pocket passers who can distribute to elite yak weapons, point guard style. He makes those kind of quarterbacks look very good. I mean, Nick Mullins, Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Purdy. I mean, all these guys look good in the San Francisco passing offense. So I think Sam Darnold would be capable. I think he could be Purdy-esque in this offense. Does Kyle Shanahan think that Trey Lance can do that? I honestly don't know, but I would not be surprised if he's skeptical. And then the final part of this, even if Trey Lance gets under center, will he be able to hold the job? I mean, Purdy is eventually going to get healthy. Darnold's there. The expectations on this team are sky high. They're loaded everywhere except for quarterbacks. So I just think it's too much risk and not enough upside here for Trey Lance in round 15, 16, in my opinion. It's just the exact opposite of the asymmetric upside I talked about with Madison. All right, that is going to do it for this week's Market Monday. Thanks to all of you for listening. If you haven't subscribed yet to the Establish the Run podcast, be sure you are by searching for it anywhere podcasts are found. Also, be sure you're following me on Twitter for a ton more player takes and NFL news at Adam Levitan, all one word. We'll be back later this week for the Silva 2023 Top 150 Rankings Release Show, as well as an awards market show with Ryan Reynolds. For producer Luke. For the king of all editors, Jackson Kane. For the most beautiful beast in the world, Jerry. I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.